At 3 in the morning, a peculiar quiet blankets the world. For most, it's a time when dreams run deepest and the body lies surrendered to sleep. But for so many seniors, this is the hour when the mind finds them, gently shaking them awake, summoning them from darkness into a twilight all their own. We like to think of rest as a fortress, a line separating the burdens of yesterday from the fresh hope of tomorrow. Yet for your aging mother, your soft-spoken father, or the grandmother who rocks gently in her chair, sleep is no longer a bulletproof refuge. Instead, it's porous. Time leaks through the cracks. At precisely 3, night after night, they awaken, not in fear, nor even because of aches or medical routines, but because something deeper calls to them, something rooted in all they've experienced and all they still hold inside. For decades, science has tried to explain this phenomenon. Doctors recite terms like insomnia, circadian rhythm disturbances, the natural decline of melatonin that comes with age. Across the sterile pages of medical journals, there's plenty of talk about prescription medications, about strategies for sleep hygiene, about the biology of old bones and restless nights. Ask any physician, and they might tell you it's as simple as a bladder that empties more quickly or knees that throb after so many years. And to a degree, this is true. The body, like a house weathered by decades of wind and rain, develops its quirks and flaws and idiosyncrasies. But is that all there is to the mystery of waking at 3 a.m.? Spend an evening with someone who has lived a long time, truly lived, with joys and sorrows pressed close to the heart, and you might see a different truth behind those sleepless hours. It isn't just aging that draws a senior from sleep. It's not just the shuffle of feet to the bathroom or the dull ache of old wounds. It is instead the hour when life asks to be heard. 3 in the morning becomes a cathedral, more sacred than any church. In its silence, memories arrive, light-footed and persistent, carrying echoes of laughter, regret, and longing. This is when the heart, worn raw by decades of loving and losing, feels every beat with an honesty hidden in daylight. At this hour, regrets tiptoe in, barefoot, to sit gently beside them. Old decisions rise up. The child they wish they held just once more. The apology left unspoken. The friend lost, not only to death, but to pride or neglect, or the drifting apart that life sometimes imposes. The world, so noisy and insistent during the day, falls away, leaving only the soft ticking of a clock and the gentle exhale of breath. In this hush, unexpressed grief finds its voice. So do the small joys, a spouse's laughter recalled, the warmth of a summer afternoon years ago, a letter in a handwriting long vanished. Losses bloom beside triumphs, both ache in the quiet, equally insistent, equally real. They might tell you that they woke because of a physical need, but often that's the easy answer. The real reason is more complicated, more beautiful, and more painful. The soul, given room to stretch at last, reaches out for connection. This is not insomnia. This is communion with oneself, with the past, with the invisible threads that bind us to those we have loved and lost. In the hush of 3 a.m., those we have grieved become, for a moment, present. They visit not as ghosts, but as warm reminders. The mother's soothing hum, the father's guiding hand, a cousin's infectious laughter. The boundaries between the living and the dead, the past and the present, blur just enough that love becomes palpable once more. Some seniors cry quietly during these hours, not only from sorrow, but from gratitude. for the privilege of having lived so fully that pain and longing are now constant companions, for the fondness and the farewells, for having survived heartbreak and chosen hope, time and again. The pillow may become a damper for tears, or simply a place for heavy thoughts to rest. And in the stillness, a strange knowledge dawns. Feeling deeply, even this late in life, is not a sign of something broken. It is a testament to being alive, to the undiminished capacity of the heart to care. Science can peer into the brain and measure the twitch of a neuron or the dip of a hormone, yet it cannot chart the hidden geography of memory or the mysterious ache that comes not from failing muscles, but from lifetimes of loving. When you talk to seniors about these waking hours, you don't hear about neurotransmitters. You hear about unspoken worries for children and grandchildren, stories of a brother who vanished in war, or a crossroads that changed everything. Some confess that they still listen for a voice they haven't heard in decades, or find themselves whispering apologies into the darkness, hoping they might somehow be heard. 3 in the morning, then, is not a curse, but an invitation. It's a pause, a sacred opening in the relentless march of time, when life leans close to whisper, "You are not finished yet." Sometimes, sitting on the edge of the bed, seniors murmur old prayers, not for miracles, but for solace, for the quiet reassurance that what they have lived matters, that even the sorrows have meaning. And in that deep hour, some find that what wakes them is not loneliness or fear, but love itself, love that refuses to be silenced by time or separation. Maybe the membrane between this world and whatever comes next is thinner in darkness. Maybe it's a time when the memories press closest, seeking not to haunt, but to gather, to beg remembrance, to offer closure. We don't speak of this enough. We leap to fix things, to medicate, to manage symptoms, to hush what remains most human and profound. Yet perhaps the world would be kinder if we honored the 3 a.m. hour, if we recognized it as a testament to a lifetime's feeling, to an unending bond with what matters most. For the eldest among us, waking at 3 is not a failure. It is, in its own way, the final proof of a heart that has lived, loved, lost, endured, and still, miraculously, cares. So the next time you learn that an elder you love rises at an unkind hour, remember this. What wakes them may be biology, but what keeps them awake is the soul's need to be known, to be forgiven, to be remembered. To find, in the darkness, that their story, even now, is unfinished, and that the simple act of being awake is sometimes the bravest, most loving thing of all. Loneliness drifts in quietly as the years pile up, settling into the rhythms of daily life like dust collecting on windowsills. It's not the acute ache of loss that hits hard and then ebbs away. It's a gentle but persistent pressure, pressing closer and closer until you hardly notice it's there, and yet you can't breathe quite as deeply as you used to. Each year subtracts another familiar laugh from your address book, and suddenly phone calls arrive only to ping you with robocalls or reminders that you're late paying a bill. The mailbox, once bursting with postcards and scribbled notes, now holds only advertisements and sharp white envelopes with empty return windows. The calendar squares that used to be circled with birthday parties, tea dates, and gatherings go by untouched. Another year quietly ticked off. Even pets, those ever-faithful witnesses to the grind of daily routine, seem to sense the shift. The old dog, once bounding in anticipation of visitors, sits quietly now, ears pricking only at unfamiliar sounds that never materialize into faces at the door. The world has slowed and softened for them, and in the hush, loneliness becomes almost tangible. A soft blanket, perhaps, but woven of fog and silence, settling on weary shoulders. These are the hours that few people see, especially at night, when the world around has cradled itself in dreams and obligations, when every possible distraction slips away. It's often around 3 a.m., when the house is at its stillest, that loneliness presses down the hardest. The clock's soft ticks become a steady heartbeat. The hum of the refrigerator offers the only company. That blanket of fog wraps tighter, sealing out the buzz and pulse of the day, leaving only the persistent ache of being alone. Truly, finally alone. Yet, there is grit in this endurance. Despite the wait, mornings still come. Eyes open, coffee is brewed, curtains are drawn back. They wake up and breathe, not because they crave another empty day, but because they've always done it. They were raised in times where showing sorrow was a sign of weakness, urging each other on with phrases like "chin up" or "carry on." Tears were discreetly removed from cheeks and troubles tucked quickly away, somewhere out of sight, where company wouldn't see. That's how survival looked. That's how pride was protected. But the things that were buried don't stay hidden forever. With nobody left to distract them, those ghosts rise up in the quietest hours. Long-buried heartbreak, regrets that once seemed so trivial, names forgotten by the world but never erased from the heart, grievances and small triumphs alike, coming up now to claim their space and to be named. There's no one left to listen, so the mind, in desperation, tells its stories to the night. You won't find this in sleep clinic brochures. No specialist will mention that many older souls wake at 3 a.m. because, in these small hours, they truly belong to themselves for the first time all day. No one is telling them what to do, correcting their memories, or reminding them of the things they cannot do anymore. For a little while, they exist without being measured against their younger selves or patronized by polite well-wishers. They are whole. They are who they have always been, before the labels and the dismissals, simply themselves. Perhaps this is why some stop fighting the insomnia. The fight drains away, replaced by resignation, or perhaps acceptance. Instead, they ease themselves out of bed, pad quietly to the kitchen for a sip of water, or stand at the window, peering at the slow-moving stars. They allow themselves the luxury of remembering, of wandering through the corridors of the mind, the melody of their mother's lullaby, the crisp metallic tang of rainfall on cobblestones in 1957, the way an old lover laughed at a private joke. They are not restless or broken. They are living twice, once by day and once more by memory. For them, this is not a disorder. It is a form of grace. When a loved one says, over breakfast, "I hardly slept last night," our first instinct is often practical. A glass of warm milk, perhaps, or a gentle suggestion of melatonin. But what if, instead of looking for remedies, we offered our presence? What if we sat beside them a moment longer, asked what woke them, what thoughts circled in their mind, what memories demanded the honor of being revisited? Often, a story will bubble up that has never been told, a long-carried sorrow or an unspoken wish. That quiet hour before dawn is not just a time to fight through. It is an hour of great truth, if only someone is willing to listen, to honor it. We must learn to hear what isn't said, the sigh that follows a pause, the meaning woven into the phrase, "I'm fine," when the eyes drift away. So often, they are not season of fine, but years of swallowing emotions, of refusing to be a burden, make it hard to ask for help. So instead, they confide in the emptiness, pour out their truths to the listening dark. Let's agree to stop thinking of this as a symptom, a thing to fix. Perhaps it is a sacred hour, an invitation to journey back through all that matters, a gentle nudge from the soul itself, reminding them that life is not finished. There are still feelings waiting to be felt, still words eager to escape into the open air. And if they are willing to share, we owe it to them and to ourselves to truly hear, because one day each of us will feel the press of years. We will lie awake at 3 a.m., watching the subtle pulse of moonlight dance on the ceiling, and wonder how many things we have left unsaid. Then we too will know that this restless hour is not emptiness. It is presence, memory, and grace. It is the echo of all we once lived and all we dare still to dream.